Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 240th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. As you know, usually I put a battle on just on a Saturday morning, but I got home from work today and there was nobody on the computer, so I thought I'd put on a midweek bonus battle. Now, you know, in a lot of our battles we talk about being aggressive and attacking, and through doing that keeping the enemy on the back foot. I'm going to show you this battle because I think this is a good example of how you need to have controlled aggression and maybe attack as a team, or at least, you know, kind of letting your team know exactly what you're doing. As you watch this battle, you'll see what I mean, but as I say, we're always on about being attacking and being aggressive so that the enemy have to react to you. Okay, so it's been an interesting battle to watch. Okay, the first teammate is somebody who called himself Blubbering Baboon, but is in fact an old RTW player called Lionheart. A lot of RTW veterans might remember him. I'm not sure, but I think it's probably one of his comeback games, if you like. I think he's had a long rest from RTW, and I think this might be one of his first games back. And then our next teammate is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction. And then our last teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who's bought the Rome SBQR faction. As I say, I've been bringing this old army for some months now, and it seems to be doing quite good so far. So there's our team. Should be a good one for you to watch. And here is the other team. We have an RTW player who's called himself King, but actually is Scorpion King SR, and he's bought the Macedon faction. And part of his army are 6 units of companion cavalry, or the winged horsemen, and they're called that because of the wing type things they've got on their helmets. Now, these cavalry are tough, and if you look at the upgrades on these cavalry, he's put 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So these cavalry are really tough, and I think they could be battle winning troops if used correctly. I see that he's bought just 7 units of pikemen there. That's a small amount to bring to the modern day battlefield, and I see that he's bought, I think it's 7 units of Cretan archers, but only 7 units of pikemen. Should be interesting to see how well this army does. The cavalry, as I say, have got excellent specifications, so it should be a good one to watch. The next teammate is Brotherhood member Cal, who has bought the Rome Brutio faction. And then we have an older RTW player called MGM. A lot of you will know him. I think he's had quite a break, a longish break from RTW, and he's just returning back to enjoy, hopefully, playing it again. So there's the enemy team there. As I say, this should be an interesting one for you to watch, and if you'd like to leave a comment afterwards, that would be great. Now, at this very, very early stage of the battle, you can see we haven't even formed up yet. You can see that MGM is bringing his Julia army forward in a very aggressive, attacking way towards Lionheart there. I think MGM's always been quite an attacking player, and as you can see here, he's laying his credentials out very early in this game here, as he's going to be an aggressive and attacking player, I think, as he has always been. If you notice here, he's trying to snap at the heels of our Scipio ally as he's running over to join up with the rest of the team. I thought he was going to charge into that last unit there with his cavalry, but I think he must have saw the Scipio cavalry coming back to help out their infantry. As you can see, Steve Longshanks has run his Scipio army over towards Lionheart's army there for a bit of support, and you can see that the enemy team are moving forward towards us as well. As I said, from what I can remember, I haven't seen MGM play for a long time, but from what I can remember, he was always an aggressive attacking player here, and you can see him moving his Julia army forward. At the angle that he's moving here, it wouldn't surprise me if he tried a flanking attack here on our right flank. I say, I think both Lionheart and MGM are returning to RTW after quite a long absence or a bit of a rest from RTW. So it'd be interesting to see if they're a bit rusty or whether they're still as good as they were. As I said earlier, you can see that MGM is moving his Julii army round to our right flank here in an aggressive flanking action. Be interesting to see how Lionheart responds to that flanking action there. As you can see, Lionheart's bringing his Scipii army back, but moving it to face the threat at the same time there. There's a few Julii pilers going into our Scipii teammates' piler shield units there as they pulled back. There's a general overview of the battle as it stands at the moment. You can see that Steve Longshanks has bought, I think it's 3 archer units there. May even be 4. I think it's 4 archer units there. Obviously he's bought those to try and counter the Cretan archers that he thinks that the Macedon army has bought. And I think as we saw, the Macedon general has bought 7 Cretan archers, so that should be an interesting tussle between archers there. As I say, there's my old army facing the Macedon army there. But remember that the Macedon general has only bought 7 pike units, so that'll be interesting to watch as the battle develops. As I say, over on our right flank here, you can see that MGM now has kind of split his army into 2. He's got his main army that he's brought right round to this right flank, and he's still got 4 urban cohort units kind of facing the front of our Scipii ally there. He's now bringing his cavalry over. If you notice here, he's managing to throw some of his pilers into our Scipii allies' cavalry there, causing some casualties there. Now remember what we've talked about, being aggressive and attacking. Because if you're aggressive and if you're attacking, you keep the enemy on the back foot. They have to react to you. They kind of dance to your tune. And if you see here that MGM with his Julii army is being extremely aggressive, and as you can see there, moving right round to our right flank here, moving his cavalry round. But if you notice that his allies' cavalry is quite a long way away from his army. So if anything happens, he's going to be a bit short of cavalry support there. If you notice here, Steve Longshank's archers are being quite decimated there by the Macedon Cretan archers. But don't forget, there were 7 of those Cretan archer units there against, I think it's 4 of Steve's. So that's only to be expected, really. But I should imagine Steve is probably giving those Cretan archers some casualties there. If you notice here, we've got the bulk of our cavalry at the back of our armies here, enabling us to move our cavalry in any direction. If you notice, my cavalry are hiding in the long grass. If you notice there, can you see it says they're hiding? So I'm hoping that the enemy don't know exactly where my cavalry are, and I can move them out of the long grass whenever I want to. But as I say, we've got the bulk of our cavalry there in a very advantageous position to be able to move them to any part of our battle line when needed. Okay, you can see there's a lot of pilots coming in from the Julii army there. Now it'll be interesting to see what develops on this right flank. I know MGM's an aggressive attacking player. Okay, so he is now attacking. Okay, he's throwing in his infantry and he is now charging in his cavalry. But look at his allies. I don't think they knew what he was going to do. So he's being aggressive, he's being attacking, but it's kind of not. Just pause the game for a second. He's become aggressive, he's attacking, but obviously his teammates didn't know what he was going to do. And if you like, he's been kind of over aggressive. It's not controlled aggression. He's just gone out for a flat out attack against our ally there. And as you can see, we've got something like, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, 14 units of fresh cavalry here. That we can now charge in as a bulk straight in as a counter-attack to those to that Julii attacking force there. So not only have we got infantry there, we can throw in all that cavalry in one big hit. So there could be like 12, 13, 14 fresh full units of cavalry charging into that Julii attacking force there, and bang as our cavalry goes in. Now if you notice, Cal's brought his cavalry over here, but of course because I don't think they knew what the Julii general was going to do, they hadn't moved into position to be able to help him. And if you notice, can you see a lot of the Julii units are starting to rout now? Now if you notice that Cal is charging his cavalry in as fast as he can to try and help. Let's just pause the game for a second. So can you see uncontrolled aggressive attacking without your allies' support? Can you see what's happened now? Most of the Julii army has now been routed, including Julii general. Now if you notice, Cal is charging his cavalry, and can you see one of his cavalry units of 43 men has routed, and that's because they're running in to allies who were routed, so their morale drops and then they tend to rout. And if you look at that massive cavalry hit we've just put in there to counter that attack, Cal's brought some infantry units over, but I think we could all see there that the Julii general was so intent on attack and being aggressive that he kind of attacked without his teammates knowing what he was going to do. So attacking on your own, especially when we had all that cavalry at the back of our infantry that we could counter-attack with, might not have been kind of the greatest thing to have done there. As you can see, most of that Julii force is now routing. As I say, Cal's brought his some infantry units over to support that flank now, so that was a nice bit of teamwork there by Cal. If you notice that Scorpion King's brought some of his Macedon cavalry over here as well to try and help on this flank. But that's what we talk about. When we talk about attacking and being aggressive, it's got to be controlled aggression and attacking with kind of your allies' help if possible. Just charging in flat out like that now has cost them that Julii army, basically. I mean, a lot of those units are probably going to rally, but as I say, this is a good example of maybe being too aggressive, too attacking without kind of allies' support there. That's one of the reasons I wanted to show you this battle. But if you notice that Cal and Scorpion King have both brought reinforcements over to this flank now with cavalry and infantry. Right, can you see I'm charging my cavalry in there now? People that watch our battle videos, I bet you can see where I'm aiming my cavalry at straight away there. Can you see? So I'm charging my cavalry. I've seen a prime target that I want to hit. Now I bet a lot of you that watch our battle videos, knowing where I'm going now, as you can see, I'm going to try and charge in to Cal's general. Can you see Cal's general there, right at the front of his fighting troops? Now I'm going to smash in with my cavalry with the hope of trying to rout or kill his general there, which of course then would lower the morale of all his fighting troops. But I think he's got about 70 odd, I think he has 70 odd men in that unit when I hit it, so the chances of killing or routing that unit now will be pretty small if he's got so many men in it. And also now can you see he's counter-attacking with his Brutii cavalry. Some of MGM's cavalry has rallied and he's charging those in as well. Let's just pause the game for a second. Okay, so you can see that Cal has counter-attacked with his cavalry. We've got some of Lionheart's infantry in there, and my cavalry has charged in as well. But MGM's cavalry, some of his battle damage units have rallied and they're charging in. Meanwhile here you can see that Steve's moving his force over to the right here to face Cal's infantry. And if you notice, I've got my army at the rear there, watching the Macedon pikes there. If you notice over there, can you see that some of the Julii units are starting to rally? And Scorpion King's got his archers here. Now if you notice, they're not firing. He's got them on idle at the moment. Now that might seem a bit strange to you, but what he's waiting for is for the battle to settle a little bit so he can start putting those archer shots in, kind of like surgical hits on the flank of our units or rear of our units as we're fighting. So that's a nice nice conserving his arrows there. Right, if you notice that some of my SBQR cavalry are starting to rout now, I'm hoping they're going to rally. But if you notice there, I've brought my infantry over to this right flank here to help out Lionheart. against Cal's infantry there. And if you notice, Scorpion King's bringing some of his pikemen around the rear of our of our armies there. There you can see he's bringing his pikes, trying to get in behind us with those pikes. Now I've got my SBQR army facing our right flank now. I'm facing the Brutii, the green Brutii. And Steve's behind me now, and I think he'll probably turn some units maybe to face Macedon. Right, if you notice now, you can see there's a lot of Brutii, enemy Brutii, and some Julii cavalry out to our right flank now. So they're quite strong there. And if you notice that Steve's facing some of those units with some of his. Now, if you notice, I've got battle damage cavalry, but I'm charging in, and I'm still going to try and go for that general. Now he's only got 31 men left. I'm hoping that a really good surgical hit with my cavalry might well take out his general there. But you can see there's a lot of Brutii, army about there. But round his general, I don't think there's any enemy units in front of his general to soak up my cavalry hit. So I'm hoping that when I hit with my cavalry, I'm going to either rout or kill his general there. If you can see my battle damage cavalry fighting their way through my own infantry there, and then bang, straight in to try and get that Brutii general. Okay, so I've achieved what I wanted to there. I've managed to rout the Brutii general. So of course, as we know from other battle videos, all his troops' morale will now drop, making them more susceptible to routing. So that's why I wanted to hit them. But if you notice that Cal still got a lot of cavalry and infantry left here. And there's some of MGM's rallied cavalry. You've got some of MGM's rallied infantry there as well. But because they've suffered so many casualties, their morale will be low. Rallied troops, when they come back from the battlefield, very often, because they've suffered so many casualties, their morale will be low. So it looks like I've just killed the Brutii general there as well. But as I say, rallied troops coming back, they can be effective in certain circumstances, but very often, because they've suffered so many casualties, they are more susceptible to routing because their morale is so low. Right, if you can notice on the battlefield now, can you see I'm moving my whole SBQR infantry units forward? And can you see that those Julii units that have rallied are now routing? Okay, because of, if you notice, Lionheart's Scipio troops, plus I've moved my infantry forward, their morale was already low, and that movement of our troops forward towards them has lowered their morale so much it's routed them. So now, basically, we're up against Scorpion King SR's Macedon units and Cal's Brutii force there. As you can see here, I've thrown a couple of infantry units in just to slow this Macedon, a couple of these Macedon units from coming in behind us. There. And of course you've got these 7 units of Cretan archers now who are shooting probably fire arrows into our units now. Remember, fire arrows not only cause casualties but also lower the morale of our troops as well. He's got good upgrades on those archers as well, so they'll be doing a lot of damage. There you are, you can see all the fire arrows coming in. I think it looks to me like he's going for Lionheart's Scipio general there, with all those arrows going into him there, and there's a heck of a lot of those fire arrows going into our Scipio ally there. Right, if you notice, Scorpion King SR is moving his Macedon pikemen forward, trying to get into the rear of Steve Longshanks' Scipio infantry. If you notice, Cal's brought his Brutii cavalry out to the right flank with a view to charge in. As you can see there, he's trying to charge into the flank of Steve Longshanks' infantry. As you can see, I've turned a couple of my units now to face the oncoming pikemen. Let's just pause the game for a second. If you notice, there's a gap open between the Macedon units there. Now if we can just pour cat infantry through that gap between those two Macedon pike units, we can get in behind them. And remember what we've said in other battle videos, the weak spot of pike units are their flanks and especially their rear. So if we can just get some infantry through that gap and get in behind those Macedon units, we could indeed rout them. Can you see there I've got one of my SBQR units have broken through another part of their line there and now attacking the flank of that one Macedon unit there. If you notice that Scorpion King SR has thrown in a couple of his archer units. If you notice, he's alt attacked. They've got their small swords out attacking the flank of my of that one SBQR unit of mine there that's taking that pike unit on there. As you can see, there's a general overview of the battlefield at the moment. I'm just going to pause the game here for a second. Now what I've noticed is Cal's taking his cavalry out here. Now I think what he's going to do with that cavalry is to charge them in to the rear of Steve's engaged Scipio troops all the way along that line there, trying to rout all of Steve's engaged troops. So what I'm going to do, I've got 3 of my SBQR units there, which I'm going to try and use as a blocking force to stop Cal from progressing along that Scipio line there. Remember, that cavalry moves faster than my infantry, so I'm just hoping to get my infantry in place before that cavalry hits. As you can see here, you've got Scorpion King pikemen still pushing forward. We've managed to rout the Macedon general there, which obviously means that Macedon morale is not very good anyway, so their morale is going to drop even more now. As you can see here, I've got a unit there, a couple of units there taking on that one Macedon faction. I've got 2 units here taking on that one Macedon unit. So let's see. As I say, my guess is Cal's going to charge in all the way along that Scipio line if he can to take out the engaged Scipio infantry there. Right, he's charged in. You can see I've moved my infantry 3 units over there as kind of a bit of a blocking force there to try and stop that from happening. See, Steve's broken through this particular part of their battle line and has charged in behind them now. I'm moving my infantry forward towards the Brutii cavalry there. I think we've just taken out another one of the Macedon pike units there. But if you notice, can you see that Cal's cavalry now are I think they're the main cavalry on the battlefield now. I don't think none of us have got any cavalry left now. If you notice, he's going to charge in, probably going to go for the Scipio general there. He's going to go for Lionheart's general there. If he can take him out, then of course he knows he's going to lower the morale of Lionheart's infantry. If you notice, I ran one of my SBQR units forward, put it into guard mode to try and absorb as much of that cavalry charge as I could, so it didn't rout my teammate's general there. If you notice now, I think most of the enemy units have been routed now. I see Cal still got some of his cavalry left, but the vast majority of the enemy units have now been routed there. If you notice, Cal's charging his cavalry in once again. I think going for that Scipio general, but if you notice, I got about 5 units of infantry around that general there, so I'm hoping that will absorb the cavalry hit there.
Running from our men. Rome demands victory from her generals, and
that looks like our team has managed to go on to win the battle there. First thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game there. I just wanted to show this battle to you, to show you how maybe uncontrolled aggression. Now, can you see the Julio player there? As you saw earlier, he really charged. He was really aggressive right from the beginning, charged his units in, and even, you know, usually if you're aggressive generally you get big kills, but can you see that he's only got 512 kills, and that's basically because his army was taken out by our massive counter cavalry attack that actually took it before he could kill many of our troops. I thought Cal and Scorpion King did extremely well after that early setback in the battle. I thought they played really, really well. And I thought that Lionheart got the highest kills in the game. Now, bearing in mind he was the one that was being initially attacked, So he was defensive for quite a while. Then he turned into attacking, and that's why he's got so many kills there. So really well done to Lionheart there. Steve Longshanks as well, got some good kills, and he's got a lot of men left in his army as well, if you noticed that as well. So really well done to Steve and Lionheart. But as I say, I thought this was a great example of how if you're over aggressive, you charge in without your allies' assistance or help, what can happen to your army. Just have a look at the statistics of my my army there. I say I don't think my cavalry didn't do very good there, but a lot of my infantry units seemed to do quite well in that battle. So I'm quite pleased with some of the kills that my infantry got. This Spartan commander saying, hope you enjoyed this midweek bonus battle. See you soon.